For me, it was more of a planned move. So now, a lot of people have come from Ukraine. She couldn't work, couldn't do anything. She needed to be home with the kids. And I replied that when I came to a new country, it was very difficult.
Adaptation takes 2 to 3 years.
It's living under a bridge or starting your own business.
And there are people who come from Hiroshima and arrive with nothing and leave there.
Renting or buying, 50 years past. He has grown not twice, not 3 times.
So, generally the attitude towards the banking system.
And does your brain work according to your all settings?
Hello, I'm indeed very glad to see you.
Yes, hello Kirilo. Again, yes. Kirilo has been in America for almost 2 years. He is a tattoo artist and he has questions, just like all immigrants have, many questions. So I'll try to answer the questions that I can answer. And I hope that the questions you have are the same as those of other people who have arrived. And this will be interesting for many immigrants who have come to America, to have these answers to their questions.
About the percentage question. Affected. How has your move to America affected you physically and spiritually in any way, and how long have you been in America in any manner?
I've been in America for 10 years. By the way, tomorrow marks 10 years since I've been in America. Tomorrow marks 10 years since I've been in America. For me, it was more of a planned move. So right now, a lot of people have moved from Ukraine, whose houses have been bombed, they've lost their businesses, they've lost everything, and they've relocated. So I still had the opportunity to sell my house and have some money when moving to America. It was a small amount, but at least it was something to start with, because I know that many people who have come now have nothing. I had this carefully prepared. It wasn't spontaneous or unanticipated, but it had thoroughly considered consequences. Because it's a new country, there's no language. Everything is different. We moved, I had a son who was 9 months, and my wife was pregnant with our second, so she couldn't work, couldn't do anything. She needed to be home with the kids. I'm constantly at work, and it's very difficult. So those were very difficult first years because of the little kids. And we didn't have enough money, very little. And our budget for eating some fast food was about $50 a month. My wife was walking. George Hamburger was near the children's park. She would buy one hamburger and cut it in half. Well, to split it up, to somehow stretch our budget for the month financially. So yes, it was very difficult. They told me, why did you go to America? You lived better here in Ukraine. You had everything better than you do now there. Why did you go there? I said, if I move to a new country, knowing no one or anything, and I'm living worse than in Ukraine, yet surviving, once settled and meeting people, my potential will grow. I saw the country's potential and opportunities, and now I see this as a life stage to pass. So I always saw the potential of the country and the opportunities. And today I see it as just a stage in life that I need to go through.
Okay, I agree with you. Can you please tell me how much money you had when you arrived?
20,000.
Okay.
We paid for the tickets, and with me, in my wallet, I brought around 20,000.
And how much time did it take to adapt? 2, 3 years?
Well, after a year and a half, I was supposed to start my own business. Because it was either living under a bridge or starting my own business. So I didn't have any nostalgia. I didn't see myself and the kids in Ukraine. Absolutely. I didn't see any prospects, any opportunities, nothing. It was easier for me. My wife, who lived in America from the age of 11 to 20 or 21, if she had lived here in America all her adolescence, she would have had nostalgia for Ukraine and a desire to return. But I didn't have it. I love my country, Ukraine, I'm for it. But I didn't have that physical feeling of nostalgia. I only had the drive to move forward. Family, kids, providing for the family. Because my biggest motivation is family. As a man, I don't need much. I would say at least we're all like that.
Yeah. I understand you. That's a purely masculine stance. Forward. Comfort isn't as important to us as it is to women.
Yes.
Please tell me, in which states and cities have you been? Where did you like it and where didn't you?
We traveled when COVID started. I really dreamed of getting an RV and traveling around America. That was my dream. But with work, I realized that I couldn't leave my clients because I would lose them. Then coming back, returning, paying for rent, for everything. And that was my dream. And I thought, well, maybe when I retire, I didn't see how it could be possible. When COVID came, I was like, opportunities. He says, stay home order, so couldn't leave the house. I rented an RV. The prices for them dropped by half. Gas prices fell. Everything dropped in price by half. And we traveled around America. We wanted to go to Colorado, but I realized that it takes almost 3 days to get there and 3 days back, and there's no time for that. Plane tickets are really expensive. We can't afford them for the whole family. We're like, oh, let's go to Colorado, all right? We took the RV and went to Colorado. We rented a house. Cost $1,000 a night. We rented it for $70 a night. The kids remember him to this day. They want to go back to him. And we traveled through 17 states. We went to Colorado. Then we called friends in Nebraska. They say they don't care about this COVID. Come on over. Problem at all. And back then there was all this chaos. And we're going with them to... We're on vacation in Nebraska, and my brother just arrived. I haven't seen him in a few years in North Carolina. We're almost there. We arrived. And so we didn't plan it. Step by step, we traveled for a whole month, going all around America. I was in Texas, I was in Oregon, in Portland, in different cities, but I really like South North Carolina. In terms of the standard of living, how people earn, the pace of life, nature, and the weather come together. So there are almost never any storms there. The seasons there are relatively mild, both summer and winter. Because in Texas, the seasonal changes are more extreme. It's colder and hotter. That's why I really like South Carolina. Have you been to Miami? No, I haven't been to Miami. I really regret that I didn't go. A client calls me and says, I need it, come on, come. I put that client on hold for a while. And he already forgot about it, but I regret to this day that I didn't go to Miami.
We went, the warm climate, ocean, and interesting people made it enjoyable. They are interesting. So I really liked it. And there are a lot of Ukrainians there, just like here.
I have a friend who just moved from San Diego. He lived in Rancho Santa Fe, or the most expensive area in San Diego. He moved to Miami, and he filled up the car here and then loaded it onto Lafayette and took it there, and he filled the tank for $100. She moved there, he drove around, stops by, fills up the tank and spends $40. The same car. He says, what am I supposed to do with these $67? He says, Governor Newsom is doing well in California. He knew what to do with my $67. And here he says, what am I supposed to do with these $67? Well, if he does that, he's joking.
Invest.
Yes.
Well, yes, indeed. The next question, why San Diego?
When I was driving, I was choosing. I had acquaintances in Oregon, and I thought maybe I should go there. But it's winter, it's cold, and there's work. I understand that I can only work in construction. I don't know. I don't know English. Science is not my thing. I didn't do well in school. So only there. And here they tell me, well, it's not bad in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, I'm like, Los Angeles, we're looking at apartments in Los Angeles. Of course, something cheaper. And there are bars on the windows. We're like, no way, where are we going? This doesn't seem serious. And one friend calls me and says, oh, come to San Diego. I'm working here. I have a job. So he offered me a job as a tile assistant. I arrived and he says, I'm looking at a city near Mexico. Well, let's see what it's like there. I didn't really understand what San Diego was. I didn't know anything about it. So I was just heading to a boom.
Please kindly tell me, what would you initially recommend to people, first, who have come to America without any money?
Find the desired job in a field that you already know. So every person who arrives has some kind of experience, what she was doing, or something similar, so she doesn't have to learn from scratch. That's one option. Go pursue a profession. If you've worked with your hands, choose the direction you already know. Analyze what resonates with your soul. Pick what feels closer to your heart. And don't take any random first job, or be mindful of your choices. Analyze what resonates with your soul. There are things you can love. Choose what feels closer to your heart. Don't just take any random job to have something. Pick a direction familiar to you, something you know, and move in that direction. It will be easier to grow and increase your salary than to learn something new, because it will be easier for you to grow and get a salary increase in a few months than to learn something new. For people in more humanitarian professions, office jobs, not construction or manual labor, I know people who came in the 90s. They would work as taxi drivers during the day or at night, and during the day they would study. So it was really difficult. When everyone was just sitting there playing cards, in between, they were sitting and studying. And after 5 years, those people say that everything is bad and they still drive taxis, while others have studied and are now earning 150, 200, 300,000 a year. So education, if you have a humanitarian profession, choose a job where you can earn and go study. For example, language skills are not for me. Studying is not for me. I can't tell you much here, but from what I know about people who came earlier and how they achieved success, that's one of the options.
Why am I asking? Because people arrive with nothing, yet find success. In the long run, there are people who come from Hrushevo, arrive empty-handed, go to Turkey or Ukraine. What exactly do you specifically advise people who come here from Hrushevo?
I haven't had that kind of experience, but from what I know, and I know a lot of people who came from Hrushevo, they all think they know everything. They say, we're going to conquer America now. We're going to show them how to do business. Americans don't understand anything. You need to understand the culture. Why did I have the goal to work for someone for 3 years? I had some small savings. In 2 years, we broke even, and I was happy that we didn't owe anything to anyone. To work, to understand how the system works, and the mentality of the people, because he is completely different. Actually, Americans are more similar to Ukrainians in terms of mentality than, for example, Ukrainians are to Germans or Europeans. The difference between Ukrainians and Europeans is much greater, while Ukrainians and Americans are much closer. So there's more freedom for Ukrainians and Americans than for Europeans. That's why they are much closer. Use your skills and experience. Adapt. Come on, work. You have experience, your skills, your brain needs to adapt them. You were successful, you have experience, your DNA is tuned to what you did, and your brain works according to your settings. Like social networks, they will adapt to the algorithms. You need to reprogram, and you will be successful in America. Understand how people live, what they do. It may take 3 to 5 years. It won't happen in a month or a year. It might take you 3-5 years. It won't happen in a month or a year. It will take time. You will lose some money. But if you invest and start this business, ask yourself a question. What will happen if I lose all my money? Are you ready for that? Or a minimally risky business? So here you just need to watch and think.
Can you please tell me, housing, buying or renting, and if you have the option to buy or perhaps rent, considering all factors?
In my case, I'll talk about myself. Times are significantly changing. For example, I had the opportunity to buy a home in the market 5 years ago, which was at that time for about $500,000. I was looking at those old houses from the 1940s. For $500,000, it's very expensive. I'll earn a little more money and buy something better. But the way I was earning, the houses were appreciating much faster. Price in houses, so if I had bought at that time at least an apartment, I would have rented it out. The rental prices have all gone up since then. Real estate is growing. Working on a 60s house, replacing plumbing. But it is growing. For example, I'm working on one house replacing the plumbing. It was built in the 60s. And the owner of the neighboring house, who is the original owner, bought it as soon as it was built. And he says, bought this house for $18,750. $18,000 and $750. At that time, 50 years later, that house was worth $850,000. Now it costs $1 million. So renting or buying, 50 years have passed. In 50 years, it has grown not just 2 or 3 times, It has grown a lot. A lot of tourists and immigrants come to America, and real estate here is constantly growing.
Let me think. I have the next question. How do you feel about school education? Do you have kids?
My wife takes care of that more, but my older son has been through 6 schools, in 5 years.
Why?
Because my wife didn't like what was happening in the schools, so she didn't like it, and she would change schools even in the middle of the year if something was happening there. We didn't live in the best neighborhood. So the neighborhood is very important, and so it was a question of schools, how they teach the attitude towards children. And we have now found a charter school where kids go, and my older son has now gone, we moved to a better neighborhood, and he went to a good school. It's a decent school. But all schools are different. It all depends on the people who teach. So it's very important how a person, the teacher, relate to the children. So the attitude of the teacher towards the child is very important.
So, are you satisfied with the school now?
Yes.
That's indeed good. Please kindly tell me your perspective towards the banking system. I mean loans for business development, growth, and expansion.
They all exist. They do provide. I haven't taken any loans for the business. I took out loans for equipment, I took out loans for vehicles, but I didn't take any for the business. Because, I haven't had any proper marketing campaign where, I invested some money and it worked, it delivered results. So finding advertising and marketing was tough, but now I've got the right team. It's complex, and I lack other income sources. Business development funds are solely for advertising. More clients mean less need for other resources. I budget based on turnover. So the money for business development, like in services, is only for advertising. The more people come in, the less I need for anything else. So I invest in my budget based on the turnover. So I have 10% for advertising. Sometimes it's 15-20%. But by taking money from the turnover, I invested in advertising. That is, I don't buy myself any expensive cars or toys or a house. But I invest that money in advertising, and it allows me to grow the business. That's why I still don't have a house.
I see. Please tell me more about your attitude towards. Now a new president has come in, Trump, who supports cryptocurrency. Please tell me your attitude towards cryptocurrency.
Just tried to experiment with it a little bit. I blocked the accounts, and then I invested in a company. Nicola lost a significant amount of money through Robinhood. And I'm like, that's it. I've closed that chapter for myself. So I don't know. I remember watching Bitcoin at $3, and I could have bought 2 to 3 Bitcoins back then without any stress. But I didn't do it. Maybe I regret, and that's why I don't think about it.
Understand you. I have just a quick clarification. If you don't mind me asking this one last thing that I haven't asked yet. How has moving to America affected you physically and spiritually? How did you feel overall in Ukraine, and then you came to America, and over the course of 5-10 years, how has your physical condition been? Has it improved significantly over a period of time?
I've aged 10 years. So my physical condition, of course, I recently ran around and jumped with the kids. And I realized that time is taking its toll. I'm already 38 years old. And spiritually, I came to America solely to do business. Life led me to start a nonprofit helping Ukraine. Helping is important to me, but life has turned out so that I now have my own nonprofit organization that is a foundation. And we help a lot in Ukraine, we work. And it's important for me to help other people. And this podcast is meant to help new immigrants who have arrived. I'm sharing my experience. Maybe I'll invite other businessmen who will share their experiences. And helping new immigrants makes it easier for them to navigate this path, easier to get on their feet. Because I believe that the more successful people there are in a country, the better the country is. And the better it is for all of us to live in that country.
Great, I agree. Then I have another question. Considering the current situation, what are your thoughts on the potential developments that might occur in the near future, particularly concerning the Ukrainians who are residing in America? How do you think their lives and circumstances might change or evolve over time? I mean, people came through the U4U program, some through Mexico, or others in different ways. What do you think the future holds for Ukraine, for Ukrainians in general who have come here?
I think that, after living in America for 10 years, for example, I have this example. I work with a guy named Daniel, a Mexican, at my first job. And he had a small accident on the freeway. There was another Mexican there, and he had a bit of beer before that. Well, he wasn't very drunk, but he did have alcohol in his system. And that Mexican guy came out. He was also an illegal immigrant, and this one was illegal too. He called the police and left. The police arrived, they arrested him because he was an illegal immigrant, drunk, and had an accident on the freeway. But he has a wife here. She's also illegal, and they had a child here. For me, it was such a culture shock at that moment when I arrived. He was taken to jail, they fed him there, he could walk around, everything was fine. He was fined $5,000, which he had to pay. And they gave him a work permit, so he could work and pay off the fine. And they said, if this happens again, we will deport you. But since you have a child here, we are letting you stay. We are giving you a work permit so you can work officially and pay off the fine we gave you. So, well, America is not the kind of country where if you come and commit some crime, you deceive people, scam them, use credit cards, and so on. They'll kick you out of here. They'll catch you and kick you out. Sooner or later, they'll kick you out. There's a story about crime as well. The owner of the company, Amco Pluming, has already passed away. He had cancer. He helped me get this business off the ground. But that's his life story. He moved to San Francisco. And back then, in the 90s, they were doing a lot of things, stealing credit cards. They would buy people's information, paying $80 for each person and getting all the details about that person. And then they would buy expensive computers, home appliances, sell them, and make good money. And he's like, no, we need to go, that's it. He says, I don't want to do this anymore. He moved to San Diego, San Francisco, went to the police and said, I was involved in this and that. I want to start a new life. I'm not doing that anymore. I've moved here. I'm starting fresh. So he arrived, went to the police himself, and told them what he had been doing, that he didn't want to do it anymore. And he was starting a new life. He got a job as a plumber. That's it. He had no problems. People were literally watching them just a few weeks later. They were arrested and all deported. Well, so if you live honestly, pay your taxes, and as far as I know from the statistics, over 20% of Ukrainians who came here have already bought their own homes, but they didn't move. Those who didn't move to expensive states, those who moved to California or Florida and other states, unfortunately, can't buy homes.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking, because we come here, we establish and run businesses. We buy cars on credit or not on credit. We buy homes and other assets, but when it comes to documents, we're here on a temporary basis. I completely understand.
I don't know, but knowing America, the government, and everything else, don't think anyone considers Ukrainians important. Maybe they'll indeed keep you in a heightened state, not here and not there, but there are many possibilities for how to legalize yourself, such as a variety of ways available. For example, I have a friend, an acquaintance from Belarus, who came here and worked in Delaware for two wealthy people. Two men, they lived together. We understand what kind of people they are, and he worked for them. And they all went away for 2 weeks to relax. They say, how can I be without a job for 2 weeks? Well, okay. And they have two other friends, partners. One is the police chief of the city, and the other is the fire chief. And they live together. So, two men live together. It's their family. And they sent him to work for them at home like a housekeeper. Well, to sort things out, clean up. They were telling him what he needed to do and how to legalize himself to stay in America. Do you understand? So one police chief and the other fire chief recommended to him what he needed to do, what documents to get, everything to stay and legalize himself in America. So, this is a country of immigrants, and everyone generally accepts that. There's no sense that you're some kind of enemy. If you're not doing anything wrong, if you're paying taxes, please, there are people, you can come to America living as an undocumented person, and you can pay taxes. And I know people from Ukraine who lived in America illegally for over 10 years, paid taxes, turned to Ukraine, and still receive an American pension. Because they paid taxes while being undocumented. I don't know how it works, but it's a completely different system than what we're used to.
Can you please tell me, do you work your business only in San Diego, California?
Please tell me.
It's relevant. I'll say this. Please, if you're opening a business in San Diego, California, and you come here, do you need to close it or?
No, you just transfer the registration, meaning you're doing business in another state, you transfer the registration to another state, and that's it. You don't need to close it, the business just moves, it gets transferred. Regarding taxes in California, let's say this. In California, if you're running a business and, for example, an employee doesn't like something, they can sue you. And their word is often enough. You have to prove that they're wrong. So in California, running a business is very tough. There are a lot of restrictions, burdens, and various things that just don't give you the opportunity to do it. That's why it's very hard to do business in California. If I had started this business not in California but in some small state, I'm sure I would already have more than one house, I would be working 2 jobs or less, and I would be living much more freely, calmly, and better. Maybe I wouldn't have become the level of businessman I am now because of the difficulties I've gone through and experienced. I've become a different kind of person because you've been through more, endured more, and understand more. But in business, but it's very hard. It's incredibly hard to do it here. I'm all for starting a business in small towns, not in mega cities. I generally don't advise immigrants to go to mega cities because there are so many of them here. The competition is really tough. And for that little piece of profit, 20 people are fighting over it. And it's very hard. It's better to go to a small town where there aren't that many clients, but there's almost no competition. And you who provide good services will be recommended much more.
I agree with you. Thank you much.
Yes, all the best. Well, as per our tradition, if you have any questions or likes, go ahead and give us a like. We're aiming for 100 likes. We are recording another video with Kirill, and feel free to ask questions. For the best question we receive, we'll send out an Uncle Plumman branded t-shirt. Thank you indeed. All the best.